It is Friday, June 13th, 2025. And of course, a lot of things are happening in the news and around the world. And we'll be talking about those things here on World Edition. And hopefully, we'll be joined by others as well as we talk about these various world issues, including a latest attack by Israel on Iran. So that is something that's in the news as Israel strikes Iran's nuclear program, killing a top military officials. And definitely, they're saying that Middle East airspace is shut after Israel strikes Iran. Airlines cancel flights in that area. So definitely, a weekend Iran has few options for striking back after Israel's blows, is what CNN is reporting, and all along those lines. So Israel attacks Iran's nuclear missile and missile sites, prompting retaliation from Tehran. So we'll see what that retaliation might be, and all along those lines. So that is one of the major stories coming out of the world stage of news and everything like that. So definitely that's something that is of interest to those that follow world events and everything like that. And the Air India crash probe puts early focus on engine thrust. So, how the passenger in seat 11A became the only survivor of the Air India plane crash is what folks are talking about. The miracle of the sole passenger who survived the Air India flight. So, definitely that is something that folks are talking about as well. And North Korea claims warship launch successful on second try. So North Korea's Kim eyes more warships as damaged destroyer as relaunch. So satellite images show a damaged North Korean warship moved to dry dock near the Russian border. So balloons and human strength, how North Korea righted a toppled warship is one of the things that is being talked about in that particular news story and along those lines. So definitely that is something that folks are paying attention to as well. And we'll see what's going on in the United States. We know that there's a lot of protests that are planned. Trump wants Iran to agree to a deal before there is nothing left. So definitely that is something that Trump is telling Iran to do deal now after Israel blasted those targets. So definitely we'll see what goes on as Trump has his thoughts around the Iran situation as well. And no kings protests nationwide are to push back on Trump's overreach. So Trump, who has likened himself to a king, bristles at the no kings protest, and definitely they're all over the area. There has been no kings protests in Chicago, so rally against Trump to hit downtown on tomorrow. That'll be on Saturday and everything. And on his 79th birthday, President Trump is getting a military parade and millions of expected protesters. So there'll be protesters around in various places, including some here in the Triangle as well. So definitely tanks, fly past, missiles, and definitely folks are asking what it'll look like this particular military parade that is supposed to be the celebration of the Army as well. So definitely this will be interesting to see how this all goes as well. And National Guard troops will stay under Trump's control for now under the Ninth Circuit order. So definitely appeals court temporarily allows Trump to keep the National Guard in LA. So California had a short-lived win over Trump, but the Ninth Circuit granted temporary stay of order for Trump's administration to hand back control of the California National Guard. And Kilmar Abrego Garcia is scheduled to be arraigned on charges of human smuggling. So after Abrego Garcia's deportation, a Maryland pastor regrets supporting Trump. So Tennessee judge to hear arguments about releasing Kilmore Abrego Garcia from pretrial detention. So he's scheduled to appear in court in the human smuggling case and all along those lines. And Senator Alex Patella was dragged out of the Nome immigration briefing in LA and everything like that. So there's even some folks saying we cannot allow a U.S. senator to be handcuffed for asking questions, and that's what the Los Angeles Times reported, and definitely all along those lines. So there's definitely been some rage among the Democrats after the Secret Service and the FBI shove and handcuff the senator and all along those lines. So definitely it'll be interesting to see how folks react to this as well. And Cuomo and Mamdini trade fire in the final New York City mayoral debate. So Cuomo criticized for controversies and Trump denounced. So that was some of the things going on in that New York mayoral debate. In New York City mayor's race, top Democrats take on Trump and their own party. So definitely we'll see how this all plays out and what goes on in that sense as well. And an LA protester charged with assaulting officers says he was the one attacked and all along those lines. So definitely we'll see how this all plays out as the FBI is apparently a couple of days ago saying they were hunting down a mass LA brute wanted for hurling center block rocks at federal officers during riots. And AG Bondi warned you cannot hide. But definitely now we're hearing that the LA protester charged with assaulting officers says he was the one that was actually attacked. So we'll see how this all goes as well. And some folks are asking, did Trump get cheers or jeers at Les Mis? So that's just something that is going on as people are definitely paying attention to what's going on in the Kennedy Center as well. So it definitely looks like there were some drag queens that attended the Kennedy Center event with the president. So we'll see how this all plays out as well. And RFK Jr. Is definitely having some things to do with the U.S. vaccination. So his purge of advisors, some folks, including those at the New York Times, are saying could disrupt U.S. vaccinations. So that is something that is going on the U.S. stage, and we'll see what else is going on in the world stage as well. But like I said, a lot's taking place in the world, including that attack that took place with Israel and all along those lines. And of course, we still got continuing attacks and war efforts going on as Ukraine continues to defend against its invasion by Russia and all along those lines. So I'm gonna bring in Sasha Starr. I know he's got the report coming on later on and everything like that. And we've also got Dr. Sharif with us as well. So how are you doing, Sasha? And what news are you hearing? I know you'll be talking about it at 11 in regards to what's going on with Ukraine and
About Ukraine, I think Ukraine is getting ready to have a military victory over Russia. It's producing now its own weapons. There is a new missile that they developed that can hit the targets at 300 kilometers and carry 400 kilograms of explosives. So this is puts Ukraine on the level of mid-range missiles produced in Europe, and more and more support is coming from the Western Europe countries like Germany, UK, France, and so it's all his goals stated that Mr. Putin will not be able to achieve even a single one. That put him as a major loser on the same level with Trump. So there are two major losers in the world. Putin and Trump, and it's not surprising that they're trying to be friends and conduct business together, so on. So loser always seeks another loser. So this works perfectly well. I was really astonished by absolutely incredible attack by Israel against Iran. It's a brilliantly carried operation. There's still more to come. It's not the end of it, but they destroyed Iranian leadership. They destroyed their targets. To what degree we will see, because it's quite difficult to penetrate on these nuclear sites. But when you do it slowly, and one thing at a time, you will definitely. And beside that, it's not only nuclear targets. I think Israel wants to make sure that all military infrastructure of Iran will be destroyed. So not only they will not be able to supply Hezbollah and Hamas and all these idiotic targets. In fact, Iran itself will be absolutely in disastrous position to do anything against Israel or any other country in the region. So this is springtime for Israel, the winter for Iran.
Sounds like everything. I know one of the things that Trump is getting ready for is his military parade, but also his trip to the G7 summit in Canada. So, how will he be welcomed in Canada, or will he be welcomed and everything like that? Because they are saying that he is going to make that trip up north to where you are to the G7 summit, which is a lot of the leadership of the world and everything. So, what is the reports coming out of Canada about how he'll be welcomed or not welcomed in Canada when he comes to the G7 summit?
He should be detained at the border in Canada and thrown to jail for 6, 7 months, and for anti-Canadian propaganda, for suggesting that Canada would become another U.S. state. So they have to really, really look into prosecuting him. And in that case, I'm not sure that he's too anxious to come to Canada. I really don't.
Yeah, but
Beside, why Canada needs a liar whose every word is a lie? He was. It was one reason why Israel. Why now? Why this attack happened now? Because on April 12th, this liar in chief said that he gives 60 days to do a nuclear agreement with Iran. When expiring 60 days? Exactly on June 12th. And that's exactly when there is 2 months, nothing happened. But Trump, this idiot, he's saying, oh, we are going to have on Sunday another 6 weeks of talks. Welcome. Have 6 rounds, 12 rounds, 75 rounds. There's just nobody to talk to.
yeah, he's going to keep talking to folks. And right now, he's running across some various protests. They're saying there'll be millions of people protesting on the streets of America on a Saturday and everything along those lines. So, Jatova, do you think any of these talks are going or protests are going to have any difference in the way Trump is treated or the reaction to him, even by his own base? Because I'm hearing that there's going to be a lot of people on the streets, not just here in Durham and Charlotte, but all throughout the country, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, a lot of our major cities. So what kind of reaction or impact do you think this protest will have? Jacoby, you're on mute.
I don't think it's going to have any impact on whatever Trump does. We're now in what people didn't realize or even think about, because there are a lot of young voters that came out and voted and didn't really think about the history in Trump's first term.
Right.
In Trump's first term, the U.S. was in chaos, but people didn't speak clearly about it and didn't even care about it because they thought about, oh, well, manly man this and all these crazy social social crazy things that people talked about. But they didn't think about, okay, well, yeah, in 2018, 2017, 2016, 2019, 2020, yeah, there were protests major protests every single year of Trump's presidency.
Yeah.
Trump even talked about shooting protesters and all this other stuff. Well, now he's able to do that because he has nobody that's going to push back and tell him no. And then the Republican Party's not going to do anything because they want, as we talked about yesterday, they still want power, but they're also afraid of coming at the king, and the king has his cult members that will come at them. So, yeah, they're going to be protests, but he's going to try and use those protests to keep his cult members or his followers in line by saying, I need to use the military this is why we don't need these protesters because they're being violent and all the other stuff. Yeah, he's going to use that while people miss the message and what's going on in the Middle East now, that we're pretty much on the precipice of war in another country, because let's not forget, wasn't it just Turkey and India that were going at it?
That's Pakistan still there. Right, Pakistan.
Yeah, so we're still on the precipice of war in multiple fronts, because this administration likes the show, and that show keeps them rich, and that's all they're going to focus on. They don't care about the protests. They care about the money.
Well, speaking of the show, they probably like the show when it is going against one of their perceived enemies, because I did see that Senator Alex Patella, who is a Mexican American, was basically looks like he was shoved and arrested and everything like that. And basically, all best I can tell, he was just asking questions of Kristi Noem at an immigration briefing and everything like that. Because even the Los Angeles Times was asking, can we allow a U.S. senator to be handcuffed for asking questions and everything like that? So what is y'all's take on this? Because this is another case of somebody, I guess, trying to make a point and trying to ask some legitimate questions and was met with resistance. So any thoughts on that, either anybody and everything? And
It's
Sharif,
authoritarian.
say what?
It's
Go ahead, Jacoby.
For this show, I do not know why you.
I was just going to say it's authority. Oh, there.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Basically, we just discuss every day about what Trump did, what Trump will do, and how he destroy economy. He is bad. I do not know why the American people actually choose him. This is the fault of American democratic system. Here is the interesting news I have actually. Chinese President Xi Jinping announced 53 Asian nations that have diplomatic tie with China will be accorded zero tariff treatment for 100 tariff line, according to a letter issued to the foreign minister from this continent. So this is very interesting for me because Trump bring all of the tariffs for all countries around the world. And by this way, I think he actually destroying the business relationship with the USA and other country. And China is very smart. China know that Africa is the future with business, with populations, with growth, and all of the things. And they provide the zero tariff for all of the 53 African countries. This is very interesting for me. Besides that, I find some interesting news from Asia. I find that Cambodia-Thailand border Sikkim's continue. It may cause a very interesting business move in between Cambodia and Thailand. On the other hand, you know that glass ceiling factory is a major problem for India uh, and for Bangladesh and for Pakistan. But I'm very happy I see this Indian women ice hockey team wins bronze at Asia Cup. Uh, Singapore crackdown on offshore crypto farms. So this may be a very interesting outcome for the crypto farm. And I believe that Asia Pacific, how they make this a different kind of business strategy and goal, it may create more opportunity for the global communities and different kind of investors, uh, crypto investors. They can come to Dubai, they can come to UAE, and they can play their game. And this may be interesting outcome. I'm sure we will get in this year how this African community take this opportunity with the zero tariff. That is my side. Thank you.
Yeah, there's interesting things going on there. Hey, Sasha, how is all these protests and everything else impacting the economy? Because I know that the other thing that you're very much big on is investments and everything. So, how is your investments going in this tumultuous world that we live in and everything like that? Is it impacting the economy or your own individual investments?
Well, certain events have major impact on the investment situation. For example, this attack Israel against Iran, it's definitely caused a major rise in prices for oil, weaker stock market, and I expect that to last at least a few days until smoke will clear and it will be. Um, First of all, it remains to be seen what kind of resistance Iran can show against Israel.
Yeah.
So that would remain to be seen. And the U.S. domestic situation with L.A. and Senator Padilla being treated the way he was, that, of course, not affecting markets. I wouldn't say at all, but anything to write home about. There's nothing much happens.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that a lot of people are talking about, and I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on this, gentlemen, and everything, is that apparently RFK Jr. move is leaving insurance coverage of vaccine in doubt. So definitely he has sent Congress medical disinformation to defend the COVID vaccine schedule, but there is some conversation about the COVID-19 vaccine could cost as much as $150 even if you're insured. So that might get some people not to get the COVID-19 vaccine and everything. So I just wanted y'all's take on what's going on in this sense with the new way that COVID-19 is being treated and everything like that, because it definitely looks like we're heading in a new direction with RFK Jr.'s leadership.
We are unsafe in every way possible in the U.S. under this administration. And when you're talking about RFK, a man unqualified who has no medical degree, nothing in medicine, he even said in front of Congress, no one should listen to him for medical information. Yet he's giving out medical recommendations. So this whole deal with the insurance companies and stuff, remember, he used to sue and he'd get paid off of those lawsuits. What do you think's going on now? So all this stuff, the people he replaced with when he fired all the vaccine individuals and then rehired people, none of them have any background in vaccines. None of them. All of them are conspiracy guys, and that's the only reason he hired them. So this is just going to get worse. Insurance companies are now going to rob people. Because RFK is giving the okay to do that. Yeah, stuff is not going to get covered. There's going to be a lot of deaths that are going to happen up under this administration, and they're going to justify it by something outlandish and crazy that everybody knows is outlandish and crazy, but those who follow Trump will always defend it.
Yeah, sounds like that's the case and everything. And apparently
one thing I just want to know, I saw there is a lot of riot and activities. People come to the street. Do you think that they can protect all of the decision of the Trump, or what will happen after this riot and what we are observing from here to USA in California and some other states?
So the thing is that on what is being put out, for example, in California, if you watch the stuff in California, you think that California is burning, but it's not. It's 1 mile. 1 mile. It's not talking about all the other protests where people are walking on the streets and actually protesting what's going on. But you see a few clips of maybe half an hour to an hour of 1 mile of California, and that's what's thought about. And that's where you get the threats from Florida and all the other things like that. But everybody's protesting because of what's going on. And the tough piece is that the Democrat Party has nothing that they can do to actually attack this. The states themselves can sue, which many of the people, that's what they're asking for their state senators, their representatives, their governors, and just people to push back, because what is going on is wrong. Everybody is for, okay, if somebody broke a law, then they should be deported. Nobody is for going to a roofing company and taking all their workers because maybe their court date is next week and they are considered undocumented because they haven't gone to their court date, which is next week. There are cases where the government is dropping their case or dropping their cases against these undocumented workers that are going through these immigration court cases, but they're getting dropped in the middle of it. So then the administration can come in and say, that's an undocumented worker. You're here illegally. I'm going to remove you. that is what's going on. And so hopefully these protests highlight these things, create legal boundaries protecting these individuals and pushing forward to kind of get the judicial branch to put a check on the actual executive branch, which needs to happen. And hopefully, because all this complaint right now from the GOP, and it's all bluster because they're never going to do anything. The GOP is a poor governing body. They own the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And they could put in legitimate rules around immigration, but they're not. It's the show. And the reason the show is there is to keep the MAGA group in line and voting for them, and excuses for the actual presidency. But again, to answer your question, hopefully those protests lead to actual protections for the individuals being attacked, some type of immigration, some balanced immigration policy, so we can actually have a working immigration system. But until something like that happens, no, we're just going to have videos of protests. Companies are going to take the most salacious parts, videos of people breaking things or dropping things, which that's not the majority of the protests. The vast majority is peaceful and people just marching.
Interesting. Do you think that if it continue, your economy, US economy, will face a lot of trouble in near future? Because the world has competition, right? The world has openness. What I'm saying, I'm bringing the example of Africa and China. On the other hand, USA or their administration make enemy everybody with tariff, with immigrations, with inside political diplomacy and all of the things. So it will create problem for US economy, right? US economy may decline, or I don't know.
Oh, you're spot on with that, though. Everything you're saying, and that's another big concern that people aren't considering, because again, the show is a distraction. The circus it blocks it takes people's minds off the fact that the US just got downgraded. Takes people's minds off the fact that prices are still rising. If I remember, they're up 34%, 30% from last year. So prices are still rising. He hasn't dropped any prices. And so then it also, across the globe, as you point out greatly, yeah, it drops the trust value. And the U.S., and Doc, you can speak on this, the U.S. has historically been seen as this great shining object. Everybody wants to go there. It's this beautiful thing. Everybody wants to invest there. Education is there. This is that shiny thing. But what's going on takes that shine away. So then other countries, and this is where China is swooping in, where the U.S. has pulled U.S. aid out, pulled all their leadership out. China's come in and said, hey, we'll help you. Canada has come in on the education department and said, hey, if you don't want to go, China's done the same thing. Hey, if you don't want to go to U.S., we'll take your people here. We'll take away the tuition boundaries, and you can come here and learn. Our biggest investment with the biggest return is education. China, when they were when they, in the recent years, when people thought, oh, they had receded, they hadn't. They actually invested more in education, built up their institutions. Right now, they have, in the nuclear fusion field, they have broken a boundary where they were able to create a nuclear fusion, which brought about the heat that was hotter than the sun. They ran a fusion reactor for 30 minutes. That is unheard of. And that technology, if you think about it, if they are able to create nuclear fusion or a nuclear fusion reactor and have it stabilized and sit there in the country, that is unlimited energy. That takes away the boundary of energy in that country. And that technological advancement puts them miles and miles ahead of us. So you're talking about now, if you want to invest in technologies, in semiconductors, in sciences, in anything, where are you going to put your money? Now you're going to put your money in China, because the next big boundary is energy. What does AI take? AI takes a boundless amount of energy to have happen. People are fighting tooth and nail. Countries are fighting tooth and nail over, we're going to have AI. We're going to be the best in AI. We're investing in AI. Well, you can't have AI if you don't have energy. And if they create a limitless thing, a limitless set of energy using this nuclear fusion technology that they've created, where's your money going to go? It's going to go to China. And we're going to be left behind in that technology market. So yeah, everything you're saying.
That was recently said Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, his CEO, and he said that by restricting trade with the Chinese high-tech companies actually is very negative for United States, because they will fall behind China. That's what's going to happen. So this is inexcusable, short-sighted policy of Trump with all the tariffs and all the restrictions and so on. He restricts U.S. He restricts U.S. companies. He restricts U.S. economy. That's what he is doing. He is enemy of United States of America and its people.
And think about this. Trump tried to put on those technologies, and this is one thing that NVIDIA, I think, spoke about as well. But when Trump is attacking Apple about not making the full iPhone here in the US, it's an impossibility. It is a complete impossibility. Look, it is cheaper for Apple to take the tariffs and continue production in the manufacturing setup that they have currently in China and actually in other nations, because it's not just in one building. And that's what people don't understand. It's bounced around from multiple buildings, at least 30 to 40 buildings. So you go into different manufacturing plants. It's cheaper for them to keep that manufacturing setup and accept the tariffs, rather than actually moving the whole thing to the U.S. And if you think about the U.S. and what's going on, when Trump was talking about, and this is another thing, this goes to the showpiece, and this is where, Doc, like I said, what you said is spot on. People are going to invest everywhere else because of what Trump is doing. When Trump attacked the people of Ohio, Trump Vance and ran on this, they're eating cats, they're eating dogs. Well, these individuals that came into Ohio were actually on a visa. Why were they on that visa? They were actually filling areas of manufacturing in the town of Ohio, manufacturing and other businesses that people in the U.S. were not and weren't going to fill. Right. So we have our manufacturing problem it's partially that, okay, well, we don't have these companies here manufacturing. But a bigger problem is the fact that people aren't working in these manufacturing businesses. So when you hire all this manufacturing, when you're talking about hiring all this manufacturing, we have tons of manufacturing jobs that are there already, but aren't getting filled. And so when you're bringing back manufacturing, you're not bringing back jobs. The steel and aluminum, they did a study where, and this is where, again, these companies that are the steel companies, oh yeah, the aluminum companies, when we drop all these tariffs, well, your one job that you brought back in that aluminum company has killed like 100 jobs in other businesses because you brought back this one job. So there's a balancing act that Trump doesn't understand, that other administrations try to work through and understand, which there was that, figuring out, okay, where we're going to be able to do the investments, how we're going to bring back these companies. But we've gotten to the showpiece. Hey, we're going to, and this happened when Clinton was running against Trump. When Clinton tried to talk about, we need to advance to new technologies in West Virginia and actually get out of the coal mining plants because that's a dying industry. It's true. It's sad, but it's true. But the problem that she had is she didn't understand the history, the tone deafness that happens in West Virginia when you're trying to get over the traditions of a family and a culture. You've got to bring that traditions and that family out of that culture and that understanding that there's new stuff that you've got to look at. And we've got to understand, let's do some training around that and education pieces around that. But Trump just went with, they're trying to take your jobs. But that's not true. They're trying to help you and move you forward. So you've got to be able to explain that. And that's the problem with the Democrat Party, is that it's tough to battle against the simplistic idea of, hey, it's black or white. It's not.
Well, speaking of simplistic and all along those lines, one of the other things that he recently come out with, and I've heard others say it, even with the Palestinian protest, because he brought it up around the LA protest, is this notion that the majority of the protesters are paid instigators. So I was watching one of the press conferences, and that's what he was trying to allude to. He was trying to make it seem as if they were a lot of paid instigators and paid agitators. I'm not saying that there aren't some agitators and instigators within the protesters who have been part of the protesters. I know that there are some of those folks that are existing, but I don't think that in this case or in other cases they are the majority and everything like that. But if you hear Trump saying that it is the majority of the folks are paid instigators and agitators. So what is anybody's answer to that? Because I've definitely heard that said about a number of protests, whether it's people from George Soros or whether it's people from the right side, that there are these notion of people that are paid instigators, and that's definitely what Trump was trying to allude to in one of his recent press conferences.
It's a conspiracy that people believe, and because in the day and age that we live in right now, and Trump has the megaphone to push out the information saying it is paid instigators, it's tough. And again, if they are paid instigators, how do you get that job? Trump does pay for people to sit behind him or fill in gaps. That has happened. But that's, people already believe something, and breaking that belief structure is the hardest piece. There's a story about the black gentleman who befriended a Klansman. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows that story. How long did it take that Klansman to get out of the ideology and the belief system that this man was evil? There's a story of the older woman who was the grandmother. They did an interview with a grandmother that they had just gotten her out of North Korea. And how long did it take her to understand that these people interviewing her were not tricking her because Kim was on the other side? So she had to say all this great stuff. So it's a cult. That's what's going on with Trump. And so whatever he says, they believe. And so that's the battle. How do you get through that psychology, that wall?
That wall is a difficult wall to get through and everything like that. But speaking of that difficult wall, the other thing that was in the news recently is that the National Guard is now under the jurisdiction of the Trump, because Trump just won a appeals case right now. Now it might be that California eventually wins and it gets to be back under the control of the governor. But for right now, they are under the control of the federal government. So what is our thoughts around that and everything? So Sasha, any thoughts around that? Because right now they are saying that Trump has control of the National Guard.
Well, you see, it's very unclear now what's the role of judicial branch in the U.S. Government functions. It's absolutely unclear because Trump can ignore the court's decision in some cases. To enforce the law, you must have a power to enforce it. So if a judge says that this is against the law, enforce it. Oh, you can't. You can't enforce it. Then just go and just show yourself and just forget about everything what you just said before. There must be enforcement of the laws. Either it has to be admitted that there are no teeth in the law. It's not enforceable, the law, and therefore it's not the law at all. You might as well ignore it. You might as well tell judges to go to hell and get away from me because I will punch you in your nose. That's the way it is. The power, everything based on power, on strength, and this judicial system, either they have to agree with Trump or they don't have anything to enforce any other opinion. That's a pity of the situation, but that's a reality of the situation.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the realities, and that's what we're seeing and everything along those lines. So it ought to be interesting to see what goes on in that space. I know that usually when either Steve or Rick are here, they're oftentimes talking about AI and things along those lines. So, Jacoby, what are some of the latest things coming out in the AI space? I know that's one of your fields of expertise as well. So, what are some of the new news coming out of the AI world?
Right now, the newest news is just what's going on in China with this nuclear fusion. Because again, AI is a power-hungry beast. And people don't realize how much power AI uses, how much water consumption AI uses. So right now, the biggest thing is what's going on in China with this nuclear fusion technology, because it ran for 30 minutes. And if it is able to run for even an hour, I mean, the amount of power that it puts out it's the power of the sun.
So, but Jacoby, even a few years ago when Bitcoin was becoming popular, so at that time it was already known that production of Bitcoins requires a lot of energy. And a lot of people who are producing Bitcoin, they are trying to sort of organize it not too far from the source of energy, whether it's hydro energy or just anything. Like in Canada, we have some production close to hydro energy resources. But AI requires much more power even than Bitcoin. So because the application for AI are 1,000 times more than Bitcoin for whatever it is.
So as a very I guess very simple remedial kind of analogy, we all got these cell phones, right? And what is the biggest problem that you have with your cell phone? Is dealing with the battery. What's another thing with the battery is it gets hot. What's another thing with the actual computations that go on in the actual cell phone? The cell phone gets hot because that chip gets hot. So there has to be a cooling system. So when you're thinking about it, again, not only is your battery system going to be a power consumption, and these nowadays they're more powerful than the computers of the old, and even some computers now.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, to do the computations for AI and the amount of data that has to come through, take 2-3 million of these and put them all side by side and then let them run, ask Siri something, and with 2 million lined up, and that amount of heat coming from that is unreal. So you got to have a bunch of water running on top of it. You got to have a ventilated area running, being able to not only cool the area. So it's like a nuclear warehouse in your hand. A big old nuclear warehouse. Just the amount of heat coming off of it. So, that's a very remedial, simplistic look at it. But if you think about it, AI is a behemoth. When you're doing AI videos and AI asking ChatGPT things, and because what's going on is that computer itself or that server or those servers are combing through not only all the data that it has, but as much data as it can on the internet, and as much going through the pictures, analyze. It's just doing so many computations at one particular moment in time, just to give you that answer. And that's a lot of power. If you just listen to your computer when it click, 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 or when the fan is picking up speed and your computer's not doing the same amount of computations, but think about a server doing, it's hard to fathom it until you actually see it or hear it or feel that. It's just wild.
Yeah, I agree with you. Agree.
Yeah, that's definitely the case and everything like that. You mentioned NVIDIA. How is NVIDIA doing these days? Because I know that in the past it was one of your major stocks and everything, but how is it doing in this particular day and time? Because it looks like I'm seeing one article, not about NVIDIA, but they're saying that Google is offering buyouts to more workers amid AI-driven tech upheaval and antitrust uncertainty. So I guess that whole antitrust situation is definitely about to hit Google as well and everything. So what is our take on how NVIDIA is doing and whether we're going to see some breakup of the tech giants?
NVIDIA is down today, as most of the stocks. Nothing crucial. It's down last time we saw $142. So it's about $3 down from yesterday. You see, a year ago, NVIDIA did spectacularly well. But it appears to me that it's a little bit run ahead of itself. And therefore, price per earning ratio was quite rich. And that spoke a lot of people, investment funds out of it. And it was essentially haven't done not much, probably next to nothing for the last year or so. So with the latest earnings, again, they were able to to report the great numbers. But not only that, they announced several initiatives where they would cooperate with other major companies and in different fields, including medicine and research and just name it. And all that will drive their earnings even higher. And it appears to me that right now they have no challengers really. I mean, in certain segments of the market here and there, they might have someone who may challenge them, but in very small segment of the overall market, they have no competition. So right now, I think they have resistance of $150 share, and once they will break this resistance in the next, I think maybe a few weeks, maybe a couple of months. The next earnings is at the end of August, I believe. Once they will break that resistance, 150, that resistance will become its support. And from that, only sky is the limit. It can run to 175, 200 quite easily because there will be no longer any resistance.
I see we've been joined by Kim. It's been a minute since we've seen her and everything along those lines. So how was your trip toward California and everything? We're talking about the earlier about the big protests that have taken place around the country. I know some that have been taking place in LA where you just came from and everything along those lines. And then they're saying that the big parades in DC, it may get rained on. So he may not have his wish. It might actually get rained on and everything like that.
You know what? It's a military parade and they march through rain, sleet, snow. Oh, wait, that's the post office. So anyway, yeah. You know, in talking about LA, if anyone would just compare some of the videos and photos of what happened in J6 and the videos and photos of what they're posting of what's going on in LA, you would see that this is more of a J6er. I mean, you've got people, you know, that they're showing standing on cars, burning things, you know, attacking things, wearing masks. Most of that was done during J6 as well. So I don't believe that the Democratic Party would do something like that. I am aware of a lot of people who were planning these protests. It was all about being, you know, calm, you know, just voice our words. You know, if the police come at you, sit down. What I believe was happening was the police was instigating a lot of the rioters. I also have on good authority that there were gas bombs that were tossed from ICE into, cars that were, like waiting at a stoplight, just sitting there waiting at a stoplight. They weren't part of the protest. And they were throwing them at the cars and then going into the cars, and people were running out of their cars. So it looked like a riot. They were demanding that cell phones be taken away from people who were recording some of this. So yeah, I think that there could be some rioters that get out of hand, or protesters. But if you look at the protests in other states, they're all just exactly like what had been spread. Be quiet, be calm. Now, my concern is this Florida sheriff who thinks he's big and bad, threatening to kill anyone. You know what? That's not your job. That's not his job. His job isn't to kill people because they congregate together, as they are allowed to do by the Constitution, to voice their concerns, to protest, to have freedom of voice. And I feel like that he is misusing his badge to be an authority to be able to kill people by using the excuse that they weren't doing what I wanted them to do. So that is not what America is about. That sheriff should be tarred and feathered by today, excuse my terms, but that was just out of line. If you want to calm things down, don't be a sheriff that goes in saying we're going to kill everyone. Be a sheriff that comes out, hands out food to people and say, what is your concerns? Why are you so upset? What can we do to make things better in this town? Be that sheriff. Be the Governor Newsom, he didn't need the military. He didn't ask for all of that other enforcement, nor did the police in LA. There wasn't any, they were dancing. Yeah, they were dancing in the streets. Okay. I guess that could be considered rioting. But I think what we need to do is, still remain calm. But what I'm seeing is people being, Trump is spreading fear. Kristi Noem is spreading fear by having people arrested, thrown to the ground, handcuffed, shackled, like the congressman that they did in his office. They shackled that girl and carried her downstairs. She was an American. She wasn't harboring anyone. But they handcuffed her and shackled her. She won't be the same forever. There are Americans being detained because they voice against Trump, and detained without food and water and for days. So I think that there's going to have to be a coming to Jesus meeting, and it's going to have to be soon because innocent people are going to start dying. But I think that sheriff down in Florida was way out of line. Way out of line. You don't threaten the people that you're going to kill them. That he's trying to look for any excuse to shoot and kill, and what he needs to do is try to de-escalate the situations first. That's their job. That's
their job, when they don't seem to be trying to do that. Hey, Sasha, one of the things I just saw an interesting article about, but it makes sense and everything, but it says that protests against immigration raids in Los Angeles have triggered further falsehoods and conspiracy theories online, and Russia has sought to exploit and amplify them. So that's what experts are saying. So Russian media and pro-Russian voices have embraced right-wing conspiracy theories about the protests, including one that alleged the Mexican government was encouraging the demonstrations against President Trump's immigration policies. Mexico has strongly rejected the accusation, which was repeated by Kristi Noem as utterly false and everything like that. So what is your take on Russia using this disruption in order to see their own thoughts and everything like that?
Well, Putin loves all kind of distractions that are happening in the United States, and he just loves it. And in that case, Trump is doing fantastic job to please his friend Putin, and this two criminals, they obviously feel a lot of sympathy for each other, and that's why they want to do business together. And he's talking about it all the time. It's just incredible. Now, interesting about this Israeli strike, that U.S. once it's happened, they immediately distanced themselves from the strike, saying that it's a unilateral decision by Israel. The United States have nothing to do with this. But they are lying through their teeth, because the strikes was conducted through territory of Iraq, which is controlled by nobody else except United States of America. So everything was coordinated with the United States, and Israel was waiting exactly 2 months since Trump announced on April 12th that he gives Iran exactly 2 months to comply with some nuclear arrangements or so on. And Israel attacked right from the night of 12th to 13th of June. So they were waiting for 2 months. And Trump was saying that he is ready to continue negotiations, 6 rounds of new talks with Iran starting on Sunday. There will be nobody to talk to in Iran by Sunday, Mr. Trump. Don't you understand that? So Trump is now supporting Israel because he can see where the strength is. And this coward, he can only be on the side of a strong man, same as Russia-Ukrainian war. He is 100% on the side of Putin, because he believes that Putin is stronger and bigger and he will win. But you know what? Mistake. Ukraine will eventually absolutely overpower Russia. They already started to do it, and they have now their own missiles. They can hit up to 300 kilometers with a load of 400 kilograms of explosives. And they're developing new tactics and so on. So you see Russia is doomed. So there will be no partner in the Kremlin for Trump to talk to. Actually, there will be nobody in the world who will be willing to talk to Trump anymore, because there's first of all, very little brain left in this 80 years old man. He's definitely sick, and he's a liar, he's a con man, so I don't understand how anybody would be so serious to talk to. And I really hope that when he will come to Canada, or will try to come to Canada for G7, he will be detained and thrown to jail in Canada. I really do so, for anti-Canadian propaganda, for crimes against the state, and I think Canada should take care of him.
Yep, we'll see if Canada does that and everything along those lines. I know in about a minute, because I see Jonathan's already ready for you and everything. So I think it's just you and Jonathan on the Ukraine, Russia, China show and everything. So we'll get ready to wrap up here and everything along those lines. So don't know if you have any parting words that you want to say, Kim, but I'll leave it to you to.
I pray that we find peace in this country, and that the people who have thought that they needed to do all of these hateful, inhumane things towards people, that they realize that that wasn't necessary. I have one question, and that is, why isn't ICE raiding the homes and neighborhoods of the violent gang members and shipping them back, instead of raiding congressmen offices, senators offices, innocent people's homes? I thought we were going to go after the violent criminals first. So I would like to ask that question. Why are we not going after the big gang neighborhoods like it was promised? And Jatovi, do you have something to say? Oh, happy Father's Day this weekend.
Oh, thanks. You know why they're not going after those people. You know exactly why.
I do.
So it's just, it would be nice if we at some point just be honest about the situation that we're in, and we have to stop just blindly following, instead of looking at particular politicians as saviors, as idols, and so on and so forth. Just advocate for what you want and go for the policies that you like. If a politician is pushing those policies, then let's work with that politician to push those policies and work with those policies, and not be so entrapped and enthralled with somebody that that person becomes infallible in your mind. No, Trump is a very flawed individual. Let's be honest about it. And let's stop treating him like this godly Christian saint man. The man is not. The man is a crook. He's a con man and a con artist. He's done that his whole life. He was a bad businessman, but because of ABC or whatever the what was it? What was this show that they created for him? The Apprentice.
The Apprentice.
That was a scripted show. That's not reality. He was a failed businessman. He's been bankrupt multiple times. How do you realize how hard it is to bankrupt a casino? He did it.
Yeah, casinos don't get bankrupt. So, yeah, I mean, and you know, he was banned from having casinos in locations that have casinos. They banned him. So, I mean, yeah. But Jacoby, have a safe and happy weekend this weekend, and happy Father's Day. And we'll see you Monday, everyone, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please stay healthy so that you stay wealthy. You know what? If you feel like the need to go protest, be very careful. Take a lot of water with you to hydrate with, and carry a number of a lawyer in your pocket, not in your phone. Take care.